They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning we will remember them. That short poem is actually part of a longer poem called The Ode, and that's the fourth stanza, and only that stanza is read every year. In Australia and New Zealand, it would be read on Anzac Day, 25th of April. And every year also on Remembrance Day, which is today, the 11th of November, which marked the end of World War One. It would be read every year in the UK and the Commonwealth countries, like Australia. The song talks, the poem rather talks about remembering those who died in the war, and it is usually followed by the phrase "lest we forget." Lest we forget, and during the ceremonies, when this poem is read out and the phrase "lest we forget" is said, it's often accompanied by the reading out of names of people who have died in the war. It could be World War One when this poem first originated, or it could be World War Two or any other conflict. Remembrance. So today's Remembrance Day, and that's why I wanted to do this video. That's why I'm sitting in my garage right now, and I want to do this video while it's still Remembrance Day. I didn't get to do it earlier. It makes me think about things that we do to remember things. We forget a lot of things very easily. And why remembering things that are important is important. Why is it that we remember the sacrifices of people who died in the war, and for the sake of our country, for the sake of, and in the U.S. we have Memorial Day, for example. We remember the death of those who fought for freedom in the past. We just wonder why, right? And the reason for that is because that death is meaningful. It's not so much just about the past, but also about the present. Realizing that if we didn't have freedom now, we wouldn't be able to remember what happened in the past. And if these men and women hadn't died, sacrificed themselves, so that we can have the freedom today, we wouldn't be able to remember their deaths. It's a bit of it would be a paradox, but it's not. And the Bible also talks a lot about remembering things, and it talks about remember what God said, remember what the Lord did for your forefathers. He brought him out of Egypt, and the whole idea of Passover itself is actually there to the Israelites had to remember Passover every single day until today. During Passover, Pesach, they have to remember what God did for their forefathers, for their ancestors, and this is, and the same patterns continue. Jesus tells us to partake in communion. He said, "Do this every time you meet in remembrance of me," meaning in remembrance of what He did for us, because God knows that we are very forgetful people. We're very forgetful people, and when we forget things that are important, to forget about what He has done, and that actually comes at a cost, because remembering the past means that our future decisions are affected. One of the things that we lose in not remembering the past is faith, because our faith is not founded on nothing. is not empty. Our faith is also founded on remembering what God has done in the past for his people and also for us. I want to read a scripture here from Joshua chapter 3 and chapter 4. And it'll be chapter 3 and to the beginning of chapter 4. It's about so Joshua at this time has already taken over from Moses. Moses had gone up to Mount Nebo and died. Joshua is now the leader of Israel. Early in the morning, crossing the Jordan, Joshua and the Israelites set out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God and the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from your positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Don't go near it. Joshua told the people, concentrate yourself, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Joshua said to the priests, take up the Ark of the Covenant and pass on ahead of the people. So they took it up and went ahead of them. And the Lord said to Joshua, today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so that they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the Ark of the Covenant, when you reach the edge of the Jordan's waters, go and stand in the river. Joshua said to the Israelites, come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. See, the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord of the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel. Choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, one from each tribe. And as soon as the priests who carried the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in the Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap at a great distance away at a town called Adam in the vicinity of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the Sea of the Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all Israel passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, here's our key passage, choose 12 men from among the people. My light's dead, sorry. Choose 12 men among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you and put them down at the place where you stay tonight. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, what do these stones mean? Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When you crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp, where they put them down. Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan at the spot where the priest who carried the Ark of the Covenant had stood, and they are there to this day. Now, this day meaning the ancient times, of course. But the stones that the children of Israel were supposed to carry to the other side, it was a remembrance. It was set up by Joshua as a sort of a memorial, like a monument, to remind the Israelites that God is faithful. And so this is not when God. It was there to remind the Israelites of how God basically stopped the flow of the Jordan so that they would cross to the promised land. But it wasn't just about the miracle itself. It's also a memorial to the reminder that God is faithful. Because of course, stopping the flow of the Jordan is a sort of a harkens back or remember was a memorial to something else, which was the splitting of the Red Sea, right? The dividing of the Red Sea, where God faithfully created this miracle, the dividing of the Red Sea, to show His faithfulness to the people of Israel when they were under attack, when they were in danger of being overtaken and destroyed or taken back to captivity by the Pharaoh's army. So the stones were sort of the stones that came from the bed of the Jordan River itself serves as that reminder of that God is faithful. And it's important, I think, for us, and God said to that. I mean, it was specifically said that the stones were supposed to be as a reminder, not just for the Israelites that were living at that time or were adults at that time, but also for the children and the children's children, so that when their children's children ask, what is this pile of stone that's standing next to the river, they were supposed to tell the children of the faithfulness of God. And the same can be applied to us, and especially in this kind of generation. I'm not saying that this generation is especially forgetful, although we're starting to see this. We see that this is a generation that has a very short attention span. As a teacher, I see this, and as a father, I see this as well. Our kids have a very short attention span. It isn't helped by social media, by television, and by media, by the consumption, the unceasing consumption of media, and it isn't helped by social media that is increasingly faster and faster in the turnover and of consumption in the way it's made. From long form, we used to be able to write long form on our social medias. We can still now, but the newer social forms of social media are so short. And I'll talk more about this in another video, but suffice to say, the kind of social media right now we have right now, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram, all these are meant to be consumed very quickly, and then you move on to the next thing. We'll consume quickly, move on to the next thing, and that means that not only do the kids don't have enough opportunity to think critically about what they're seeing, but also they don't have they're so it's not conducive to their attention span, because they are so used to not have to pay attention for a very long time. And kids who don't have a long attention span, they generally would would not have a long memory either, right? And the detriment, the danger of this is when kids don't have long attention span, when the kids don't remember things, there's no basis for them to remember, in terms of spiritual things. And it's not just kids, it's also us adults as well. So I'm not going to pretend that this is a new thing just because social media, because why did God make the children of Israel do this in the first place? Because He knows that even thousands of years ago, humans have short attention span. That's why we are so easily duped. We so easily give up, right? And that's why we forget things very quickly. And when we forget things, we lose hope, because we start to forget, that God has helped, has taken us out of the trouble before, um, and this happened to Israel all the time, even with all the memorials. We forget that God has helped us before. He can help us again. And in terms of intergenerational context, we don't have, we don't remember, we don't know. That's why learning about history is very, very important. And kids don't know their own history. Kids don't know the history. So we talk about Memorial and Remembrance Day, and I'm shocked to find out that our students and the teenagers in Australia, they do this Remembrance Day every single year, Anzac Day every single year, but they don't know the history of their own country. No, they are too busy having their minds, their brain is titillated by this fast-paced social media, and they never go deep into the history of their own country and the foundational philosophies of what the country stand for, and let alone spiritual things, right? So that's but I'm going to end it here. I think I've gone too long, but that's why it's very, very important for us to foster for our children this idea of remembering the past, but even past that is not really their own past, but the past of the past that of their forefathers, right? And for us to remember the past of our forefathers, like that song says, "It is no secret what God can do. If what He was done for others, He'll do for you." Right? My grandma used to love that song in Indonesian. So it's very important. Yes. So remember what God has done for others. Remember what God has done for us in the past. And if we need to, we can build up monuments and memorials for ourselves to remember. Write down what God has done for us. Every time He blesses us, we write it down in a blessing book, for example. We take pictures. We take videos to remind ourselves in the future when we need encouragement. My boss has this habit that I've sort of copied of saving things that would be encouraging in that emails, the encouraging emails that he receives for future purposes when things are discouraging. And I think that's a great idea. So lest we forget what God has done for us, what Christ has done for us, even when things look bleak, lest we forget that He has done great things for others, and He will do the same for us. Bless you all. I'll see you next time. Until then, don't forget to click like and subscribe if this has been a blessing for you. God bless.